What's up, everybody? Jackson here today with my little brother Cheems.
Hello, everyone.
Today we're going to be talking Sekiro Shadows Die Twice from Software's highly anticipated ninja game. Now, From Software made the Tenchu games, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And it seems to be there's a fair blend of that in this, like stealth mechanics, things like that. It looks like the combat is not like Souls, but Souls-ish, where it seems to be one-on-one. And from what I saw in the gameplay, there's some pretty intense one-on-one engagements. With the lock-on, you're going to have to be locked on. It seems that there's a way to both block and parry the enemy, as well as get away from the enemy. There's a dodge as well.
Side steps.
But it looks completely unique. It doesn't look like Bloodborne. It doesn't look like Dark Souls in combat, in the way that you're attacking the animations.
Yeah.
Kind of reminded me of Neo. Yeah.
With the samurai swords, and then there's even one point where he throws ninja stars at somebody to kill somebody. So there's ninja stars. There's a ranged weapon.
But I can't remember what Tenchu game I played. It was one for the PS2. I remember it began in like a forest area, and you were trying to break into like a ninja encampment, a ninja fortress, or some such thing. It's been so long since I played it. I didn't even remember it was Tenchu until I was asking Austin about it. That when we were up there playing cards one night, I was like, what was that fucking game, dude? It was like you were a ninja. It was stealthy. After playing Metal Gear and getting more familiar with the Metal Gear games, kind of seemed like that a little bit, where it was better to go in passively and quietly than it was to have a full out, shootout or a full out like ninja fight with these enemies. It was better to learn their patterns and go in and stealthily take them down.
Know how many enemies are across the area and kind of thin the herd before you go balls out,
Yeah, and it seems like there's going to be an element of that in Sekiro. So I mean, it looks very good. I'm not gonna lie, but
it looks very fun, and it looks like some of the mechanics from the Souls games did kind of slip their way in there, like the checkpoints.
Yeah, there's like the shrine, essentially
shrine.
A bonfire, a lamp.
Yeah, and you even rest at it, so it's more like Dark Souls instead of like Bloodborne, where you touch it and it teleports you to somewhere else. Yeah. So I mean,
and from what I've heard, I've been reading news as it is revealed through Game Informer, because they have like an exclusive thing where they're releasing details, and like in their digital issue, there's even more. It's a way to pump, subscriptions. I don't know. It's business.
They have to find shit to write about
it's little
every day.
things. It's like what they want to do is they want to slow drip the news about the game.
Oh, well, yeah.
So this is like good for the game because it builds hype, it builds excitement, it gets people, if there's a story a day or story every couple of days on it, then it stays relevant and in people's minds.
Yeah.
Not that this really needs to. I mean, this is From Software's new project. Everyone's looking at this. But it's the business side of things and whatever. I don't really care. But I've been watching those, and from what I've understand, it seems that there's several different ways your character progresses. Though there will be a skill tree of sorts, from what I understand, and with different paths, different priorities, like certain attacks. I'm assuming like ways of fighting and playing through the combat.
Right.
And then there's also like the big deal is like you're an amputee and you get this wicked fucking prosthetic. And the prosthetic is a grappling hook. It seems that it also functions at one point in this gameplay as an axe, and he's able to break through the shielded enemies and get through them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm still apprehensive, though, for a few reasons. First, let's talk about the Dark Souls remaster just really, really quick, and brush over the fact that they really didn't do that much with that game. And honestly, that felt like it was just like they wanted to cash a check, because that's 100% what that was. Me and Chubbz recently just got done playing through Let It Die Edition, completely co-op. We got invaded, twice?
Yeah.
And it was the same guy.
Yeah.
It was a blue phantom in the Darkroot Garden, so it's like, at that point, he's probably working on achievements or trying to get a spell, Like he wasn't that good.
Game.
Yeah, and you could tell he wasn't that good.
Yeah.
And so like the remaster, everyone picked it up, and when you look at its concurrent players, you can tell it's just the PvP community. Like honestly, I'm playing Let It Die Edition with you co-op every time. I will not get the remaster because no one's playing Let It Die. And honestly,
prepare to die.
Yeah, no one's prepare to die. Let it die.
Let it die edition.
Same fucking difference. Not really at all. Not even.
Kinda.
That's kind of insulting though, really, if you start to think about it. It's very insulting.
Well, it was a game that, like, banked off of that formula.
Oh, yeah.
So.
It definitely had Souls-esque combat. Like, 100%.
Oh, yeah.
No denying that. But it also had fucking, like, really egregious game design meant around selling fucking quarters.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty much.
Free-to-play game, man. Oh, yeah. You had to, like, pay for every little thing, every little progression step. And that's the thing about the remastered, is at least it wasn't that dumb. They didn't have those microtransactions or added little post-launch monetization.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it just felt like it was very lazy. Like, the time that could have been spent on it wasn't spent, and it was just rushed.
Well, they also had, there's this really amazing, I think it was a Super Bunny Hop video,
right,
where he goes into, when you actually look at some of those bosses, their patterns are irregular, and they use certain abilities in an irregular way because they are almost one-shots. And so even the bosses are designed around that old school arcade mentality of, like, kill the player so they keep feeding us quarters.
Yeah.
I mean, in a way, it's not a fucking awful thing. And to be fair, it is free, and you can 100% play through it 100% for free.
Yeah, they'll let it die.
But when you look at that and compare it to Dark Souls, it's like, it's insulting to Dark Souls.
Oh, yeah.
But that's the remaster. It felt like I mean, what did they really do? They made PvP and co-op changes with allowing more phantoms. They changed the healing system so that the host doesn't heal the player, and invaders have free reign to use Estus in your game, in a game that they didn't do any balancing for with any of the weapons or the end game shit that people can go and get and just insta-kill you with a one fucking spell.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't fucking touch any of that. But they added a bonfire at Vamos, so you don't have to fucking run. It's not even like... Yeah, dude. I mean, how hard is it to get to Vamos, really?
It's not...
Teleport to the deeps, run back up, climb out by fucking...
And keep in mind, like, especially if you've cleared the area and killed the skeleton mages...
Well, I mean, your odds are you're going to have to deal with the bone wills, or you're just going to have to go from up top, like you're saying, and skip them and drop down in.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, it's nice, 100%. It's super nice, because that is... I mean, not for me... But I can see if people were, like, trying to fucking get there just quick and turn a blade in, and they don't, it is hard. But
out of all of the areas, out of all of the bonfire placements, of all the checkpoints that could be placed in that game, there are some areas that needed that more.
Well, yeah, there should have been one in Izalith. There needs to be a bonfire in Izalith.
How about one in fucking Lower Londo Ruins?
Yeah.
I don't care if it's, like, way far away from Firelink Shrine or before the flood or after the flood. I don't care. Just the fact that there isn't one down there
at all
is like, okay.
That's the way Izalith is. Like, if you die to the witch, which is odds are you're going to die to the fucking witch.
Yeah.
And you have to run back. You have to take this annoying time to go to your menu, equip the orange chartering so you can run through the lava to access the boss. And it's like... So there you go. Those are just a couple of things. There's numerous things. They could have added more enemies to the demon ruins, switched up, and changed that around and actually finished the game. Added more demon because we know from like design work interviews and other things, Miyazaki has said like the game was rushed. Like the team was rushed to finish the game. Lots of things remained unfinished that they wanted to do.
Yeah.
And instead of going back to that, they just released it with Vamos Bonfire, and you can heal as an invader system, now.
Yeah, but they didn't even care to add the omnidirectional.
And that's to say nothing of like what they did with Dark Souls 2.
Yeah,
where it released like completely underperforming what was advertised, what was marketed when they were hyping up the game. Mm-hmm. Then they released Prepare to Die, or
the Scholar of the First Sin edition, which adds all these features, makes it run at 60 FPS at high resolution, and it adds
which is
the
just
DLCs.
Stock and standard with most games day one.
And that's the definitive edition. That could be technically considered the director's cut, the final finished product.
Yeah, right? Because that's how they label it.
Exactly.
So that's this company. And it's so hard because they also have an impeccable record when it comes to actually like unique games that stand out. I was trailing into this when I was playing Resident Evil 4. Souls-like needs to die as a label because Souls-like is too narrow.
Yeah.
It only cordons in games that use a stamina meter or something like that, and it doesn't determine, or it doesn't factor in games that existed before Dark Souls.
Yeah.
There's lots of games like this before Dark Souls. I've been playing Resident Evil 4. It's a perfect example. But one that's even more, back farther.
Oh, yeah.
Zelda 2. That's going to be on Switch next month. Everyone play that. That's my favorite Zelda game. Hands down, in my opinion, the best one. It's so unique from the others, and it's Souls-like in nature just with the point system, and if you get game over before you're able to level up, you lose all those points.
And you have to go get all of them.
So, it has these things, but to call it Souls-like is moronic. To call any Zelda game Souls-like is moronic. And to call Dark Souls being like Zelda is moronic. The reason those games, people try to fit them into that is because it's when you hit a game that's so challenging and tests you mentally as well as like your reflexes, and you have to solve puzzles and do things like this, and it's like mysteries being unveiled after painstakingly looking around, or in some cases like some things that I never even figured out how to do and eventually looked up online, or things like that, boss fights or anything like that. It's something that people are like, it's a community of like shared knowledge. Like, this is how you do it.
Oh, yeah.
You've hit that breaking point. Well, check it out, dude. This is how I did it.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, is you can look up a lot of these things, a lot of these encounters. Like, for instance, Resident Evil 4. You could probably look up a guide of how to play through this and beat it, and you're going to see different tactics used, different weapons used, like, each time. Because at the end of the day, this is one of those games that I remember so fondly playing with you and Moki when we were way back, like on GameCube, way back, dude, like before a lot of shit.
Yeah.
And like, I've been picking it up and playing it, and I've been just ripping through it. Most of the game is like, I just was like, this was so hard. It took me a day to do, and that's why I remember how to do it.
Yeah.
That's why I know what I need to do here.
Yeah.
That's what, and like...
You know what strategy's gonna work.
I was just breezing through until, like, I started to hit the castle stuff, and then I started to die a bunch.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like... And I died before that. I mean, it's gonna happen. There's, like, jumps, kills, and things like that. And it's fucking horror.
And that's the thing that makes the comparison between that and Dark Souls too, is it's built to make you feel tense, to put you on edge,
to test you,
yeah,
and not only test you, but test you under pressure.
Well, everything's at stake, right? Like in Resident Evil 4, your character dies, and you have to go back and try it again. In Dark Souls, you die and you lose all of your points, and you have to go back there again, right? But the thing is it's built to put you on edge and to test your skills and see what you will do in the moment. Like, it's trying to make you panic because it knows when you panic,
you die.
You're going to fuck up. Yeah. And if you get mad, you're going to fuck up. It's like telling you, all right, this is intense, but you got to calm down.
Yeah, dude.
Focus. You know what to do. You know what strategies you need to play out in your head right now. You know what I mean?
Yep. And it's a vast umbrella of things that fall under that. There's so many games that fall into that category, whether they're old or new. There's just certain games that are challenging in more, and like a perfect example of ones that's the antithesis of that, I would say, is like a perfect example, Shadow of War. Shadow of War is basically just holds your hand the whole time. It tells you when you need to counter. It gives you every ability in the skill tree. It lets you modify that ability with every modifier at the whim of your pause button.
Yeah.
And it just like the flying, like Chris was saying, the flying was fucking like, you didn't even need to do anything.
Yeah.
You just fucking press X a couple of times, to flap faster. So like, it's the perfect example of everything that's not that. And I think there's games that fall down the middle, that are challenging, but also like friendly to someone who may not want that experience.
Right.
A perfect example being Witcher 3.
Right.
From Death March, new game Death March, to new game like casual, I think, is the easiest one.
The story and board.
Yeah, story only. From that down, like, that's like, it's like such a vast difference in difficulty.
Yeah.
And in between that is several different ones that you can pick, and you can decide, okay, well, this seems a little easy, I'm going to turn it up one. Fallout did that pretty great too. Fallout 4.
Yeah.
Fallout 3, letting you have that, you know, difficulty where you could turn it up or down depending on where you're at in the situation. Giving the player the decision of how challenging do they want to make this.
Yeah, exactly.
And what's so great about From Software is in every single one of their games, they've allowed this room through the building system, builds, everything like that, to allow players to make their own difficulty.
Exactly.
I was watching Matthew Matos's Dark Souls commentary the other night. I watch it in sections before I fall asleep. It's pretty great. He has a lot of really awesome insight into this game. So he was saying that he doesn't kindle bonfires. He does not kindle any bonfire except for Fire Leak, because it's automatically kindled, you know, it's one of those. So he just, like, that's his difficulty meter, and it lets him decide, like, okay, I only get 5 fuck-ups.
Yeah.
And that, you know, that suits his style of play, because he takes a very cautious, you know, very passive, wait for the, you know, opportunity. And it's so interesting that the way he plays could be vastly different to the way this guy plays, or this guy whose version of difficulty is soul level 0, and I'm gonna beat it with a fucking Guitar Hero guitar.
Yeah.
Right? But, like, that's, like, the extreme. But, like, the thing about From Software games is they do that. So while we can talk shit on the remaster, it's really hard to because it is such a great game.
Well, it is lazy what they did with it, though. Because,
I agree.
I mean, essentially all they did, 2 other guys did, with mod support for the Prepare to Die edition, except for they didn't do it official, and it looked better. It was harder to figure out, and it did have its bugs and issues, because this is like a fan-made patch for the game. It isn't official. Right, so like,
well, there's all the problems that come with just having the game in 60 frames per second.
Like falling through the environment when you slide down a ladder. That shit happens to me all the time.
Yeah, I didn't see that, and it felt like what's happening in that game with the mod is that the 60 frames per second is, like, kind of patched on, and it's not perfect.
It's not
so refined. I think what's happening is some areas is meant for 30 and it's, like, sped up, so maybe textures don't load, maybe environments aren't loading all the way. There's that weird thing that happens sometimes in Darkroot Garden when we go in there and all that shit's dead.
Yeah.
And we're like, where's all the mobs? And leading up to the Moonlight Butterfly. All of it's dead. And then remember that time we were fighting the fucking 4 kings and we saw the dragon fall through the fucking
There's just like a dragon down there.
From the Valley of Drakes.
Perched, and
one of those blue drakes just falls through the map as we finish up the 4 kings. And it just falls behind him. Oh my god. I wish I'd been recording that playthrough. That shit was funny as hell. That's the first thing I got.
Yeah, but yeah, that shit is due to, like, the what is it, the collision detection with the environments.
Yeah.
And it's, like, not supposed to run at 60 FPS, so, like, the enemies are loaded in before the environment, and because they're running at 60 FPS, something happens where they're able to fall through the environments.
And it's still a great patch. Like, DS Fix is a great fucking patch. It allows you all the things you should expect in a PC port of a game. I'm sorry, like, and I'm not trying to be master racy or anything, but if fucking X amount of companies are doing it and they're the majority, then what's your problem?
Yeah.
For instance, Sunset Overdrive. Picked that up for fucking Christmas. I was excited to play that, dude. I've heard such good things about that game. I kind of wanted a game to follow up Agents of Mayhem with, where I was just running around shooting shit. Shit's fun, dude.
Yeah.
And so, like, I was doing that, and fucking, it stays in 720p. Even though it says 1080 in the options, and you select
HD
1080.
1080, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't.
And there is no option for 720, but your display will automatically scale down.
So I was looking up solutions. One guy was saying I needed to change my fucking resolution in Windows so that, like, just to account for its downscaling, to upscale it to 1080, I need to do it through my Windows. And I'm like, no. And so then I was like looking to see if there was a way to go in the any files or like somewhere like that and put it. No. So I said, okay, as far as I'm concerned, I've spent 15, 20 minutes looking for a way to make this option available in your menu function correctly.
Yeah.
Refund, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Right now. Like, you don't deserve my money at that point. Okay? And that's the thing with Dark Souls Prepare to Die, is that was their release of the game. I think 30 frames per second, why it stayed 30 frames per second, I think that's seriously just because they intended it to be 30 frames per second.
Yes.
With the remaster, you see a lot less of those bugs happening. It's definitely feels like, you know, more than one guy worked on it.
Yes.
It's more polished than what you would
official.
expect.
Oh, yeah.
From
but
one guy.
And then there's certain aspects of it, in my opinion, watching that video where you showcase the differences between Prepare to Die and the remaster, I think that in some cases the retextures pack, and because the old school lighting system,
that's a different, guys. That's a it's two.
Well, and that's the thing. There's three separate guys, right? There was Durante's DS Fix,
there was Durante,
Wolf's connectivity mod,
yeah, Wolf's connectivity
and then
mod,
Toology retextures pack, right? And with those three guys' mods, in my opinion, certain areas just look better looking at that footage. Because, and here's the thing, because the one area where you could not see shit in Dark Souls was the one area that you needed a light source to traverse the darkness.
Yeah.
Right? Everything else was still dark, but you could see shit, right?
Yeah, you could, especially if you paid attention.
Oh yeah, like looking down from Andre, the blacksmith, down in there, you could see the demon down there.
Yeah.
Or even more importantly, on the way to the demon place, right? The Izalith, that Titanite demon at that corridor, right? Like, it was dark.
Yeah.
But you could see it clearly. You could see what enemy was off in the darkness, and you knew you were prepared for that fight. And then in the remastered, you can't see that. It's almost like the catacombs, where it's just you don't see the enemy. It's just pitch black until you walk in there, and then the radiant light source from your character, which is a part of the game, illuminates the corridor.
With what I was playing, from what I remember playing it, it felt like some areas were darker than I remember and more bland, and then other areas were brighter and more colorful. Right. I will say Anor Londo, I think that looked really fucking stellar in the remaster. But the problem is overall I was unimpressed. And another thing is the anti-aliasing, and I don't know if that's just due to the restrictions on the PlayStation 4 version of the game, which is the only one I played. I'm not buying it.
Right.
I'm not buying it for the PC. I don't feel like I need to shell out $20 for a fucking game I already own.
Yeah.
That's also better right now because no one's fucking playing it, so I'm not...
the
only people playing it, you
seconds.
can tell... It's almost always people that are co-oping. Like, we'll see signs on the ground. There'll be like 4 people in the node. We're like, oh, it's another 2 dudes playing with each other, you know? Mm-hmm. It's like they don't have to fucking deal with like invaders anymore.
Yeah.
And not only invaders, but these broken builds that have been handed around by these fucking people for years just so they can come in and cause complete destruction on you.
Oh, yeah. Come in,
especially if you're a
noob,
especially if you're a newbie to the series and you're trying to get into the game. A fucking invasion at the wrong time can end your playthrough. It'll make you rage quit.
Oh yeah.
Especially if it's a broken fucking thing like that. Mm-hmm. That happened to me in fucking Demon Souls, dude. I got to I can't remember what part of it was, but it's the Tower of Latria. I think it's the lead up to the Gargoyle fight. Or the Manhunter fight.
Man-eaters.
The Man-eaters. I can't remember exactly, but it's a purple, swampy area. It doesn't poison you. It might be blood, even, from that big creature that you come across later on. But either way, like, it didn't seem like it was that far. I don't think I had gotten to the Man-eater yet. I may have. But it was definitely the Tower of Latria. And I got invaded in that little purple lake, and the dude one-shot me with a fucking... spell, soul arrow or something. It was one of the blue ones, and I died. One-shotted me.
One spell.
I was like, this is fucking stupid. And like, I gave up that playthrough. And when I went back to it, I disconnected my fucking thing from the internet. And that was the time I played through and finished the game. Was offline.
Yeah.
Because the PvP in these games is just like, I don't know. And I think that Dark Souls Remaster could have done with a fucking rework.
Yeah.
I have this theory I was telling you and Cream when we were playing fucking Dark Souls 3. I think Dark Souls 3 is his version of a remaster of Dark Souls 1. I think that's the closest we're going to get to a remaster of Dark Souls 1.
Yeah.
Because, like, the game feels the same as Dark Souls 1. It has the same thematic elements throughout not only map design, but enemy encounters, things like that. It's just jacked up to 11. Too many things carried over from Dark Souls 2. Like, this restriction on Estus in the beginning. This hardcore, like, amount of enemies and the way that they attack with erratic fucking patterns and fucking, you know, like, there's some shit in that game that will always keep it, like, down the bottom of my list.
Yeah.
Dark Souls 2, I don't even have on my list. It's not even worth being on my list. I played through it and I don't remember a single fucking thing about it other than ambush after ambush after ambush after ambush.
Oh, yeah.
I was a wall of rage when I played that game, dude. I was in Hulk mode.
Yeah.
Like, I was just like, tell me these cool people in the chat. I wish I could remember their names. Cool people in the chat telling me where to go. And I was just like, they weren't helping me beyond that. They were just like, head this way. And I'd go in the area. And then I'd like
run into enemies.
And I'd get frustrated. And at a certain point in some of the areas, I was just like, tell me where the boss is. Like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Like, fuck
I'm
this.
Skipping this shit.
This is stupid.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't fair or balanced against me in any way. This is just tedious and annoying. Having to fucking do, like, oh...
And then
the worst was that cavern. And the boss is easy.
Fucking boss is easier than the fucking area. The area is the boss in that entire game.
There's some hard bosses.
There are some hard bosses, but think of how many bosses there are in that game. It's like they were amping it up to 11 and not just how hard it is, but how many bosses and how many areas. Because
the
I
bosses
think it's like
didn't feel as well constructed as
at all
and memorable as the Dark Soul bosses.
Exactly.
Dark Soul bosses, like, you could recite in a list by this point.
Oh yeah, and you can remember them and their presentation and how cool it was, no matter if they pissed you off and you died.
Yeah, and there's some stupid ones for sure that are lopsided against you, which of Izalith being the primary culprit of that.
But Dark Souls 2, the problem with it was like, we're going to have more bosses, more areas, harder difficulty, harder everything. It's all going to be harder and amped up to fucking 11. But just because you have more content doesn't mean it's better content.
Yeah.
You know, just because you have more bosses, it just means that nobody's going to remember any of the bosses. And you didn't
spend as much time on individual bosses to make them feel more fleshed out.
Yeah, exactly.
Give them a better presentation, not only like tonally and environment and like music and things like that. That's one thing about Dark Souls 3. Every boss in that game is memorable.
Oh yeah.
They're all awesome. It's got some of the best bosses in the series.
Oh yeah.
And
another thing with Dark Souls 3 is because it is still a live game, the invasion is more often than not the reason that it kills it for me. Because right out of the gate, you're on the fucking, before you even kill Voight, John Voight of the Boreal Valley, okay, before you even kill that guy, you're up on the wall and you're getting invaded by people who have specifically went ahead and got weapons. We were seeing people that were in fucking armor and had weapons from the Ringed City, right, invading us, okay? That means that they didn't level up past the point of where they could come back and fuck us up. But they had gone ahead and got all the weapon upgrades, all the fucking heavy armor.
I think there's a restriction with weapons, too. I think there's only a certain point that they can level it up, but still.
But regardless.
Yeah.
And with
that armor... But the thing is, when you look up a fine-tuned build that someone has crunched the numbers for, and you're just copying it, this formula, and invading people, it's like, what is your fucking purpose in life? Like, why would you do this?
Yeah.
Like, it feels so... It's you get those guys that run back into mobs and pull you into the mobs because, like, it's not even like they couldn't probably beat you anyway.
Yeah.
They're just dicks. Like, they're literally doing it just to fuck with you.
Yep. Just to try and kill you and ruin your experience.
Having that experience be absolutely 100% tied to the co-op. Because if you want to co-op that game, you got to deal with invaders. Is bullshit.
And
then you shut that game off offline. You start a character offline, and you clear the areas one by one, kill everything all the way up to fucking the Cathedral of the Deep, and then you go down into the swamp where the what are they called? The Farron Watcher boss is.
The Poison Swamp.
Yeah, the Poison Swamp. And you're getting killed by 2 of those fucking tree guys' spells. You only got fucking like 5 or 6 hills at that point?
Yeah.
Like you fucking, and they're like plus what?
Yeah, there's certain enemies that I feel like by the time you got to them, especially if you're playing solo, right? If you are just coming across these enemies in these areas at the current level by yourself,
without losing souls,
you're not intended to kill those motherfuckers.
Yeah, with keeping souls all the way up to them. Yeah.
There's just too many enemies scattered through too many areas.
And maybe that's he wants you to have a reason to go back to those areas.
Right.
The thing where they fucked up with Dark Souls 3 is it limits you from the beginning of where you can go. Dark Souls 1, you want to start a sorcerer, I could show you where to get fucking gear within 2 minutes that would set you on a powerful start to that.
Oh, yeah.
Where you would be able to be fine in the first area.
In areas...
You want to go a cleric? I can show you where a sword and shield is that'll get you set on that.
Oh, yeah.
You want to go straight strength, 2-handed weapon? I can show you how to get a sword for that.
Oh, yeah.
It's like within fucking an hour of play, you can have the right equipment and shit that you want for your build.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if you're more knowledgeable, like after you've played it several times. Replaying Dark Souls is so fucking good because it's like, oh, you know what I haven't done? I haven't done a Pyromancer build. I'm going to do a Pyromancer build, and I'm going to go, you know, get this weapon and this weapon, and I'm going to do, like, you know, dexterity with the, you know, the, what is it? Down in the
scythe.
Yeah, the scythe. And where you can get it enchanted with fire super early.
Yeah.
Right? And so, like, there's a wizard, go run into the fucking Blight Town, drop down there, get that tin catalyst with that crimson wizard gear.
Yeah.
That shit's pro.
Oh,
right
yeah.
out of the gate, that shit makes you OP.
Oh, yeah.
There's ways to do it. It's not like you're funneled in this direction and you're at the fucking, as you're, so like, for me, I like going 2-handed greatswords in Dark Souls 3. Until I get the curved greatsword, which is all the way to the Crucifixion Woods, that's like the first area, first boss. Second area, second boss. Third area, third. So that's the third area, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the one after the
undead settlement.
Yeah.
So I have to go 3 areas without getting what I want. Like, I can't skip ahead, find things that are good. And this is also a great way to balance out the PvP. Which I think the PvP became too much of a focus in Dark Souls 3, in my own personal opinion. I think the PvP took precedence over a lot of things. I feel like Bloodborne is more Dark Souls-like than Dark Souls 3. I truly feel that way. And I feel that, like, Dark Souls 3 is like, it's definitely Dark Souls 1. Because he copied over, like I said, a lot of the characters, a lot of thematic elements.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that's telling, the first person you run across, I thought of this the other night. The first person you come across in Dark Souls 1 that has anything to do with co-op or PvP is Solaire. In Dark Souls 3, it's Leonidas, or whatever his name is, that's leaning in on the fucking thing from the day one.
Yeah, and he
sends you to kill a Dark
Wraith.
Wraith. Yeah. Sends you down to kill the Dark Wraith. So you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
You're introducing PvP first in this game. So obviously that's been the priority.
Oh, yeah.
And when you look at it, and you look at how just like frustrating it is to get invaded by those PvPers. They're not playing Dark Souls for any other reason than the PvP. Being an invader. They don't give a fuck about the story. They don't give a fuck about any of that.
And the game allows them to chain invade. We were seeing that in, what was it, the beginning of Anor Londo?
Right after Pontiff Soliban.
Yeah, when you're back there and you got the giants and the Drangs. Me, you, and Cream, we were out there. Invaded. And it was like 4 or 5 guys. And it wasn't like we were getting invaded by a bunch of different people. It was like 4 or 5 guys.
Yeah, the same guys.
And they would go out. After we kicked them out, we would kill them. They would go out, go find a different weapon, go tune themselves up, come back and invade again. And it was on a loop. boom,
Yeah.
boom.
But
boom.
the reason for that is in that area and Crucifixion Woods, you have to use the finger in order to summon a third Phantom.
Oh, yeah.
So not only are they putting co-op intrinsically tied to the PvP, where the second you have to be embered to open yourself up to co-op, and if you're embered, you can get invaded.
Oh, yeah.
So it's intrinsically tied to the co-op. Now, you're being punished for having more than one person you want to play through the game with. Because now we're not only going to send invaders at you prioritized, we're going to send multiple invaders at you prioritized.
Oh, yeah.
For the entirety of your duration in this area. And it can lead for some really awesome, cool moments.
And
where that can be really fun. Us three versus three guys.
Yeah, but it's
when they keep coming
when
back.
You're trying to go through the area, though, and they keep coming back, they're incentivized to keep coming back. Think about it. They die, they go back. Oh, refresh. I get all my
flash back. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
There's times where it can be fun to step up to that and have that situation put on you, and as like a 3-man squad, take on these invaders and repel them from the game.
Yeah.
The difference is the game is lopsided against the host and the co-op players from the jump. Because they only have the co-op players, we only bring over half of our flasks, right? Then on top of that, our life bars are nerfed when we're co-op partners, right? All of these things happen, plus the entire area of mobs. Plus now invaders who can get repelled and then immediately reuse their fucking item that is the first NPC that they would come across in the game, aside from Crestfallen Knight making his 4th appearance. For fuck's sake.
Yeah.
At least this time he does more than hollow out and attack you later.
Yeah.
At least this time he's like on a hunt to become a dragon or some bullshit.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I did a playthrough for NPCs once and was like, cool.
Cool.
That was fucking cool.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, needless to say, Dark Souls 3 amps up the fucking PvP invaders and makes them fucking have more tools than the host in order to survive that situation.
Which is why I really, really love the seed of a giant tree, and then a bunch of people...
it took away that advantage of them being able to run behind enemy lines and survive and attack you while you're in the midst of fending off these amped up fucking asshole creatures in this area.
Yeah, they would have to deal with them too.
Yeah.
You know?
So at least there, if they were in your game, you could force them to at least start killing your stuff. But no, that was complained about, that was nerfed, now it only does it for a certain amount of time.
Yeah, now it wears off instead of being a permanent buff until you refresh the area.
It's bullshit. It's bullshit. PvP co-op in that game is bullshit.
Oh yeah.
Sekiro Dies Twice will have no fucking online elements.
None of that at all.
According to what I know now, this could change, because here's another thing we have to consider when looking at Sekiro, is it's also now under Activision.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can name a game from Activision that came out in the past 3 years that didn't come day one microtransactions or release them within 6 months of release of the game, I'd be interested to see it. I really couldn't think of one.
Yeah.
There might be one like an indie project thing or something like Ubisoft does.
Yeah.
There might be something like that, but as far as I know, every major publicized, marketed fucking Activision release has come with microtransactions, usually bullshit ones, like RNG based ones.
Oh yeah.
To amp up the gambling addiction and all that shit in people. To
drip feed that instant gratification.
Drip feed content, make people solve elaborate puzzles to have access to the shit that they've already given you fucking money for.
Yep.
So here's the thing. A common defense when talking about situations like that is that it's this overarching Activision problem. That it's Activision is the problem. These studios are blameless. Blizzard blameless. Bungie blameless. The fucking anyone, I can't even remember.
How many
Infinity
people?
Ward.
Yeah.
And whoever did. Treyarch. That's who did Black Ops. Anyway, but those companies, it's not them. It's not
They're
them.
at the whims of their masters.
It's all that. EA, it's not DICE. It's EA. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's like, okay, so this is going to show us that. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice will show us if Activision is like getting their tendrils into the company and forcing companies to put out microtransactions. Because up to this point, say what I will about the Souls games and the way that they've been handled by Bandai Namco and fucking From Software. Say what I will about them, the DLC, that obviously felt like it was cut away from the main game in the case of like Ariandel's Painted World.
Yeah, the Painted World.
Yeah. So like regardless of all that stuff, the you know, Dark Souls 2 shit with Prepare to Die, or the
Scholar of the First
Bitch edition. Yeah.
The remastered, all
yeah,
that
the
shit.
remaster version of Dark Souls 1,
Which
all that
is...
stuff aside, I would never think in a million years that From Software would put microtransactions in their games.
Right.
I don't think that they would want to.
I think that they acknowledge that it compromises the integrity of systems that you put in place for a reason.
Well, I don't know if they understand that or not. I'm just saying, like, at most, with monetization, post-release monetization...
Well, I hope that they have that understanding.
I do too. I do too,
Yeah.
but you never know.
And that's the thing, is if it does ship with post-monetization, it's either one of two things. Either, A, it's Activision.
They make them do it.
Yeah, or... From Software made
Just
a deal
doesn't give a shit.
because they don't care. They're looking, and we know that they're not like fucking above the norm when it comes to this type of shit. The remasters prove that. Scholar of the First Sins prove that, right?
But you gotta question, is
things
that
are like,
Bandai Namco's decision, since they own part of those games?
right?
And how much is From Software in control of the remastered situation? Did he even want to? Because
Right.
I don't, like I said, I think Dark Souls 3 was his vision of a remastered Dark Souls 1.
Yes. But at the same time, we know that they're not like shy about this shit.
Yeah.
You know what
they
I
have
mean?
no problem. I mean,
Yeah.
it's definitely happened time and time again. And it's that situation where I'm questioning, is it Bandai Namco or them? Is it a fair question? It happened with the game. But since I'm a fan of these games, I'm willing to give the benefit of the doubt. Whereas with Bungie and Destiny, I'm like, no, fuck Bungie.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the thing. I think there's a comparable difference between a consistent step forward. Say what you will about Dark Souls 3, it steps back in a lot of places, but the combat's more fluid than ever, the dodge roll more useful than ever. It feels great to play.
Hundreds of hours of
my only
content
beef, like my only beef with that game, seriously, is the PvP. The fact that I want to play it with you guys.
Oh yeah.
Because I think that it's less frustrating, and I enjoy the game more when I'm playing with you guys.
Right.
It's less difficult. It feels more relaxed to play. The way that I can sit down and play Dark Souls 1 by myself. Right? The way that I can sit down and play Bloodborne by myself.
Right.
Because I've played these games over and over. I've tested. I know where every enemy is. I know what strategy to use. And in Dark Souls 3, that just doesn't cut it sometimes.
Oh no. Yeah.
That just doesn't cut it sometimes. There's a certain amount you can know.
You can go slow, strategic, and methodical about your approach in areas, and you can be very, very slow and cautious about ways you deal with enemies. But in the end, there's sometimes you're just gonna die. That just ain't gonna cut it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? As opposed to Dark Souls 1, if you go slow and cautious, and you're methodical about your approach of certain enemies, and you know how to deal with them, and you're aware, and
you have to
be
skill based.
Yeah, but if you go slow, just like go slow, you know, when you die, it's because those moments of panic.
Yeah, where you fucked up.
Where something fucking happened, and
when
you knew that
didn't
you
go
should have done
to
something.
plan,
Yeah, exactly.
It's your fault you died.
As like Dark Souls 3, like you said, the swamp, those tree trunk guys. I've tried every other way with the most powerful stagger weapons, with the most powerful fucking spells that I can get at that point in the game, and it just doesn't matter. If you go across those guys solo, fucking kill yourself.
When you step up to that with 2 co-op partners in your game having your back, with me and Cream having your back, or you and Cream having my back, it's so much easier. Because it's now a fair engagement.
Oh yeah.
It's no longer 1v3.
One of us might die.
It's 1v1 3 times.
And even that, one of us still might die.
Yeah, because they're hard mobs.
Because they're ridiculous.
Yeah, they're not easy mobs.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is we're definitely curious about Sekiro Die Twice, but we have reservations.
Yes,
I have
worries,
as you can
concerns. Yeah, I'm more excited to see how long it will take to beat the game, how much content and hours.
Another
are
thing that they
actually in it.
recently did as well, which is kind of a tell, and it's something that we've seen other companies do upon the imminent release of a game, when there may be concern that the hardcore audience isn't going to accept it.
Yeah.
We've now heard that From Software is working on 2 unannounced projects.
Yeah, 2 games that are still
and
nothing.
One of the stories I read, one is more in line with their other games or something like that.
Okay.
So I mean, that could be I don't know. That could be a Souls-like game, or
That
in the
that
Soulsborne
mech
series
game.
esque. It could be the mech game. It could be another Tenchu. That could mean a lot of things, but they're doing it,
Yeah.
so that maybe there might be some concern that people who are familiar with their other work
May not enjoy this.
may not enjoy it as much.
Yeah.
May not find the same appeal to it as a Souls game, as a Bloodborne game. So like that, there's a question of that, and God forbid the next Bloodborne is a Sony 5 exclusive. It's gonna happen.
Oh, yeah.
I'm calling it right now.
It's gonna be.
I truly believe that's a Sony 5 exclusive title that's gonna help sell to Sony.
Yeah.
Fucking
Very well could be.
fuckers! Fuck off and burn in hell, Sony.
Yeah.
Love, Jackson.
And Chubbz.
Everyone else, fucking love you guys. Those are our thoughts on Sekiro Shadows Die Twice.
Yeah. It looks interesting. Gonna wait.
Yeah, gonna wait for a
Still
review.
too early to see. I'm excited to see how it plays out more than I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm
to
gonna
play
see
it,
what
you
people
know.
say. That's just how we are nowadays, though.
Oh, yeah.
You can't really get excited anymore, because it feels like when your expectations are tamped, it's better when you play it. Like Red Dead 2, I think I enjoyed it so much because I didn't really care.
Because you
know,
didn't build that hype up in your head.
I've seen a lot of critiques about it and problems people had with it about this mission design and other things. I genuinely enjoyed the mission structure in fucking a lot of those missions.
Right.
I thought they were really fun. I had a great time. To be fair, I didn't play the previous one. I haven't played all the, GTAs. I think I played like Vice City and then fucking 5, and I think I played 3 as well. But 3 may have been Vice City. I don't remember. Or was Vice City a spin-off? It's been long. It's been back on the PlayStation 2, so fucking so long ago.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a long fucking time. Like Twisted Metal Black days, long time.
Yeah.
And so like, but that's the thing is, I went into it with expectations tapped, and I fucking had an amazing experience. I've had a great time with that game. I loved it. The whole playthrough, everything. I would recommend that to anybody. And I think that it's you have them tapped and you go in and it's like Shadow of War. I had them tapped from day one. I knew that Shelob was in it. I knew I was gonna hate that. The opening fucking within 20 fucking minutes of the story, I was just like, wow, Jesus, this is fucking ridiculous. And then I hit a certain point where I was like, well, this is better. Why didn't they just cut that out? That didn't even fucking need to be there if you really think about it.
Yeah.
And it was like, I did not enjoy that game as much as I enjoyed Red Dead Redemption 2. I got it for $19 because I was aware of that. I waited until I saw a price that I could live with. And I mean, I felt like I got $19 worth of enjoyment out of it.
Yeah.
For sure. There was enough, good in it for that.
Oh, yeah.
But at the end of the day, I'm not going to remember it like I remember Dark Souls. I'm not going to remember it like I remember Red Dead 2. I'm not going to remember it like I did Witcher 3.
And having no expectations doesn't make the game better.
Yeah.
Like, it's still flawed. It just means that the hype that they're selling you is essentially nothing but the positives that they're throwing in your face. And they're kind of like throwing the flaws underneath the rug and being like, look at all the positives, look at all the hype. The hype is real. No,
and
it's not.
So infectious that you see retrospective take aparts of like The Force Awakens, which I still enjoy. I could sit down. You know what? I don't really so much now that the second one's come out.
And it's because
now that I think about it, I don't think I've seen that since the fucking second one.
And it's because by itself, it doesn't stand as a good movie. It was a good movie because it was reliant upon the information that would have come out with the sequel. But now that the sequel has come out, it is effectively nothing because it doesn't build upon any of the mystery. It doesn't show any of the secrets.
All those loose ends have been cut away. It's all just this. And definitively the lead up.
And because it was completely dependent upon
that to be a good movie, because it needed to. It was one in 3 parts.
Yes.
And it felt like it could go very interesting places. And so I think, but either way, there is that hype up of a Star Wars film.
Oh yeah.
I remember back when Clone Wars came out, there was like fucking
people dressed as Ewoks.
Well, there was
in
like
line
a whole
at the
MTV program I remember watching that was
Yeah.
hosted by Seth Green, and he was just at the Lucas Mansion with all the like relevant fucking pop people at that point in time. And they were all talking about Star Wars. They were just gonna go in and screen it, and it was like this whole build up, and all it was a hype party to how good it was gonna be. And look at how mercilessly those films have been destroyed since.
Oh yeah.
I personally enjoy them still. I think they're fucking great in the context of the universe.
Oh yeah.
I think there's definitely problems, obviously,
I
like
think
things that I don't
they're
enjoy.
definitely flawed. There's certain aspects of it that could definitely be
But
100% better.
I do not in any way feel the way about them as I do the fucking Last Jedi.
Yeah, the newest
And
ones.
The Force Awakens in that regard, because it got destroyed by the second film. Like, he not only tanked his film, Rian Johnson, he tanked the first film too.
Oh yeah.
By
And
this,
the third one.
To
How
this
in
point
the
where
fuck are
who
they gonna
even
fix
fucking cares about
Dude, they
Star
don't
Wars
even know.
anymore? Who the fuck
Yeah.
even cares?
People who care are gonna see the next one, and I genuinely believe that people's hype is gonna fizzle. That they're gonna see it for what it is, like just
Yeah.
a production of films to make money. That's why they're releasing one every year. You know, you've got the main trilogy with all the spin-offs, and they're gonna do a Boba Fett, and then they're gonna do a
I think
Yoda.
that Boba Fett's going to be a TV series, from what I understand.
Regardless, that's how they've been doing it.
Yeah, who
you
cares?
know.
Who cares?
First one, Rogue One. Second one, Han Solo. Third one,
I'm
Boba
honestly
Fett.
more
Fourth one,
interested
Finn.
in hearing like my favorite YouTubers rip it apart.
Yeah.
I'm more interested in that than I am actually consuming that fucking media. Like,
Yeah.
I'd rather just have someone tell me
You go how good it is or
Yeah.
how bad it is.
And
you
if,
tell
and
me.
you
I don't
usually-
care
They'll
anymore.
be like, you recommend at the start of this, you know, like, it's not bad. Go see it. Here's spoilers. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So you're like, okay, well, you know. And that's you know, I feel like that's kind of the way that everyone should live. You just need to stay reserved with all that. And so
yeah.
in regards to Sekiro, when I watch it, I'm like, yeah, this looks fucking cool. And I get, there's definitely a little excitement that builds in me to, you know, man, I wish I could just like grab the paddle and see what this is about.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I want to see how to do this. But there's still that part of me that's like, well, it's Activision. Well, you know, we know that they're not shy of fucking, you know, doing kind of stupid fucking moves against customers.
Oh yeah.
Let Dark Souls 2, perfect example. That's like the most egregious thing, I think.
And the mighty fall.
Yeah.
The mighty do
Dark
fall.
Souls 3,
Bethesda,
I think having
Bungie,
the painted world cut
yeah.
out, I think that's fucked up.
But regardless, outside of their own history, the mighty do fall. You know, Blizzard, Bungie, you know, all these other companies, Bethesda, like, we do see a stagnation. We do see this moment where they are focused too much on the money side of things instead of, like, the product that they're actually trying to sell to these people.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and that's where I get worried too, is because I look at other companies, I look at everything as a whole.
So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
That's it for us, everybody. Jackson, I'm out of here.
Chubbz.
Stay awesome, everybody.